Ever wondered why your local cop car looks the same everywhere, or why your mailman drives the world's worst vehicle? It's not random. There's a meticulously orchestrated system behind every government ride, from hulking military tanks to those buzzing street sweepers you see at dawn. And it's a system that directly affects you, your taxes, your mail delivery, even your winter roads. Ready to unearth how and why the government chooses all these vehicles, and who really picks up the tab. The journey starts with a question as old as modern warfare. How does the government decide which vehicles its military should use? Contrary to what some might assume, officials don't simply walk into a showroom and grab a batch of big trucks off the lot. Instead, the process is a labyrinth of intense research, endless testing, and cutthroat competition among defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and Oshkosh Defense. When an urgent need arises, say for an armored personnel carrier capable of withstanding improvised explosive devices, high-ranking military planners draft a mountain of mission requirement documents. These specify everything from horsepower to ballistic armor, from off-road capabilities to cargo volume. The stakes are enormous. If the design fails in combat, soldiers' lives are on the line. And in a competition with such high stakes, losing companies don't go quietly. They often file lawsuits or protests, claiming the selection process was flawed. The Joint Light Tactical Vehicle, JLTV, slated to replace the beloved but vulnerable Humvee, stands as a prime example. Oshkosh emerged victorious after demonstrating superior durability and performance, while Lockheed Martin, outraged by the outcome, pursued a legal challenge that eventually went nowhere. Now, let's talk numbers. Military vehicle procurement is one of the largest slices of the federal budget pie. A single contract can be worth tens of billions of dollars over multiple years, covering everything from research and development to life cycle costs, like spare parts and long-term maintenance. Often, by the time a new vehicle is fully deployed, billions more have been spent upgrading equipment, training personnel, and adapting infrastructure, like building specialized repair facilities. Critics argue the system leads to wasteful spending, pointing to infamous examples where budgets ballooned far beyond initial estimates. Advocates counter that safety and reliability are priceless, and that advanced prototypes inevitably come at a high initial cost. Either way, the complexity is mind-boggling, and once a vehicle is chosen, it becomes standard issue for decades, shaping the very identity of the armed forces. But let's shift gears from the battlefield to your neighborhood, where an unassuming white truck rattles down the street every afternoon. The Grumman LLV, the long-lived workhorse of the United States Postal Service, USPS, might be the single most recognizable government vehicle on American roads. Designed in the 1980s to endure a mere 24 years, many of these mail trucks now soldier on at nearly twice their intended lifespan. They're hot, no air conditioning, inefficient, roughly 8 miles per gallon, and sometimes downright dangerous. Over 120 reported fires between 2015 and 2019. You might think taxpayers would be outraged, but here's the twist. The USPS isn't funded by tax dollars, at least not directly. It relies on revenue from postage sales, shipping services, and other products. While the Postal Service does have a tangled financial relationship with Congress, official funding from taxes is minimal, meaning your stamps and shipping costs ultimately keep these wheezing tin cans on the road. Yet, calls for modernization have grown louder. In 2015, the USPS launched a search for a successor to the LLV, inviting major manufacturers to design a new generation of mail trucks. The laundry list of requirements included improved fuel efficiency, better ergonomics for postal carriers, and enhanced safety features to cut down on accidents and fires. After years of testing prototype models under punishing conditions, like scorching desert roads and subarctic highways, the contract finally went to Oshkosh Defense. Their design promises a radical improvement: air conditioning, modern safety standards, and an optional electric drivetrain. However, the rollout has been mired in political debate. Some politicians question whether it goes far enough in adopting electric vehicles to reduce emissions, while others balk at the cost, which could stretch into billions of dollars if thousands of new trucks are built. The resulting stalemate has kept the aging LLV fleet on the road even longer, forcing mail carriers to cope with outdated equipment for the foreseeable future. If postal vehicles reflect one slice of government logic, minimal direct taxpayer funding, protracted procurement, and heated public scrutiny, police cruisers represent another corner of the puzzle. Contrary to the iconic, battered Crown Victoria of yesteryear, modern police departments have an array of high-tech options, from souped-up SUVs like the Ford Explorer Interceptor to experimental Tesla patrol cars in forward-thinking cities. The impetus for specialized patrol vehicles emerged decades ago when it became clear that law enforcement needed more than just an off-the-lot sedan. High-speed pursuits, off-road searches, and heavy daily usage demanded an entirely different standard. Enter the concept of pursuit-rated vehicles. Before a car ever hits police fleets, it endures grueling performance tests. These can include rapid acceleration, high-speed cornering, endurance races to simulate extended pursuits, and repeated braking stress tests to mimic stop-and-go city patrolling. Durability is key. After all, a standard daily driver might cover 10,000 to 15,000 miles each year, but a police cruiser can exceed that in mere months. Add specialized equipment like radios, computers, prisoner partitions, and ballistic door panels, and you have a complex machine that can cost an eye-watering sum. In some well-funded departments, a single vehicle can run upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 fully outfitted, much higher than the cost of the bare-bones car off the factory line. And that figure doesn't account for ongoing maintenance or eventual upgrades. This brings us to the local government puzzle. Who approves these purchases? Typically, city councils or county boards pass budgets that outline how many cruisers the police department can buy each year. Many departments follow a rotation policy, retiring vehicles after a set mileage or age limit, and larger cities often maintain their own centralized fleet services to handle repairs. Smaller towns with tighter budgets may keep cars far past their prime or rely on hand-me-down vehicles from bigger departments. Others might outsource maintenance to local mechanics who juggle cop cars, garbage trucks, and even school buses in the same shop. The variation is enormous, but one thing holds true: all these vehicles cost money, and that money flows from local taxes, grants, or fines. Yes, those speeding tickets can indirectly fund the next wave of police cars. As for the real money in municipal fleets, many people will point to the vehicles that make daily life function, albeit in the background: garbage trucks, street sweepers, and snowplows. Let's begin with the garbage trucks. They come in all shapes and sizes: front loaders, rear loaders, side loaders, and automated trucks with robotic arms that grip and tip bins. A single top-tier refuse hauler can cost between $300,000 and $400,000. Now multiply that by the dozens or hundreds needed for a city's entire sanitation fleet, and you're talking multi-million-dollar procurement cycles that happen every few years. The question of who foots the bill varies widely. Some cities have municipal sanitation departments funded by local taxes. Others outsource trash collection to private companies that recoup costs through garbage collection fees, often tacked onto your water or utility bill. In neighborhoods with homeowners associations, HOAs, the HOA might contract directly with a waste management service, meaning your monthly HOA dues help pay for those monster trucks rolling through your subdivision. Believe it or not, garbage trucks are rapidly evolving. Modern systems include onboard computers to track routes, sensors that detect the weight of each bin, and even cameras that help drivers navigate tight suburban streets. Some fleets have begun adopting electric or hybrid models to cut down on emissions, though the high purchase price and concerns about battery life under heavy loads remain barriers. Others experiment with trucks fueled by natural gas or biodiesel, hoping to balance environmental goals with cost efficiency. Now, think about winter. In icy climates, the humble snowplow stands between daily commutes and total gridlock, but these machines are far more sophisticated than just a truck with a blade slapped on the front. Advanced snow plows include GPS-guided salt dispensers that adjust the flow of de-icing material according to road temperature and vehicle speed. Some have onboard weather stations that feed data back to a central hub, helping dispatchers coordinate more efficient snow clearing strategies. The cost can exceed $300,000 per plow, particularly for specialized models designed to operate in treacherous mountain passes. Funding for snow removal is another maze of overlapping jurisdictions. Major highways might be the responsibility of the State's Department of Transportation, DOT, drawing from a combination of gas taxes and federal highway funds. Meanwhile, county roads could be plowed by local authorities using property taxes. Smaller town roads might fall under municipal budgets, and private lanes or subdivisions often handle snow removal through HOAs or direct private contracting. In severe weather emergencies, multiple agencies cooperate, sometimes reimbursed by state or federal governments if the area is declared a disaster zone. And then there's the comedic yet oddly mesmerizing street sweeper. These bizarrely shaped machines roam city streets, removing leaves, gravel, and debris that could clog storm drains. While they lack the flash of police cars or the brute force of military tanks, sweepers can cost a cool $100,000 to $300,000 each, depending on their vacuum systems, water tanks, and squeegee technology. Some forward-thinking cities have begun using smart sweepers, equipped with environmental sensors to measure street-level air quality or detect hazardous spills. Funding for sweepers typically comes from the same pot as roads and infrastructure, often a mix of local taxes, vehicle registration fees, and sometimes federal grants aimed at pollution control. Let's not forget the truly elite segment of government vehicles, those reserved for top officials. The US presidential limo, famously known as the Beast, is basically a rolling fortress. At well over $1 million each, these heavily armored Cadillacs, or so they appear on the outside, boast bulletproof windows several inches thick, run-flat tires that can keep going even after a direct hit, and hermetically sealed cabins to protect against chemical or biological attacks. Rumor has it that the Beast carries advanced communications gear so the president can launch or respond to critical national security events from inside the vehicle. There's even talk of a blood bank matching the president's type, stashed somewhere in the back. But the president isn't alone in traveling with an entire fleet. The vice president, high-ranking cabinet members, and foreign dignitaries often receive specialized vehicles or motorcades too. Each motorcade can include an array of SUVs loaded with security personnel and specialized tools, like electronic countermeasures to jam hostile signals or intercept suspicious communications. Maintaining and rotating these fleets costs millions more each year. And if that weren't enough, the government frequently replaces and upgrades these vehicles for security reasons, ensuring no adversary can exploit design weaknesses. It's a never-ending cycle of secrecy, security, and sky-high spending. As you can see, the galaxy of government vehicles extends far beyond the obvious suspects. Think of NASA's crawler transporters, which carry massive rockets from the vehicle assembly building to the launch pad at Florida's Kennedy Space Center. These monstrous machines, originally built in the 1960s for the Apollo program, are the size of baseball infields and weigh about 6 million pounds. Upgrading them to support modern programs like Artemis or commercial heavy-lift rockets can run into tens of millions. And yes, NASA is funded primarily by federal tax dollars, meaning all Americans in some small way help move rocket boosters to the launch pad. Then there's the Department of Homeland Security, which includes agencies like US Customs and Border Protection, CBP. They operate a myriad of specialized vehicles designed for border patrol, everything from off-road trucks and ATVs to maritime patrol boats and helicopters. Coastal or riverine areas might see high-speed interceptor boats, while desert outposts rely on all-terrain vehicles or even horses, technically a vehicle in the broad sense. The cost and variety are staggering, with each region customizing its fleet to local geography and threats. Federal budgets, congressional appropriations, and sometimes fines and forfeiture revenues all contribute to these purchases. adding another layer of complexity. One might ask, who decides what's genuinely necessary versus what's excessive? The answer is both simple and complicated. A blend of subject matter experts, bureaucrats, and politicians. Experts can propose requirements based on real-world conditions, like how many bulletproof vests or bomb-resistant trucks are needed, while politicians often influence the final budget. And that because many of these decisions happen behind closed doors or in lengthy legislative sessions, the general public rarely sees the sausage being made. This can lead to suspicion about misappropriation or overspending, especially when headlines trumpet the latest $700 hammer or $2,000 toilet seat fiasco within government procurement. In reality, large-scale contracts often bundle countless items and services together, making it look like one overpriced part is being singled out. Nonetheless, it underscores how murky and complex government spending can become. Citizens do have some avenues for oversight. Budget proposals for local police fleets might be discussed in open city council meetings, where members of the public can raise concerns or ask questions. Information on federal contracts is sometimes available through online databases or official government websites, though sorting through those data can be daunting. Investigative journalists and watchdog groups often step in, analyzing expenditures and highlighting potential waste or corruption. In some instances, public outcry has spurred lawmakers to reassess or cancel contracts, proving that transparency and civic engagement can indeed shape how tax dollars are spent. Yet, the fundamental question remains, is it all worth it? Military vehicles protect national security, but can eat up billions in development costs. Postal trucks keep mail circulating, yet may become safety hazards over time. Police cruisers defend public safety, but sometimes come with hefty price tags. Garbage trucks and snowplows ensure basic sanitation and safe travel, while high-tech street sweepers keep pollution at bay. The presidential limo and NASA transporters might appear extravagant, but they serve high-profile, mission-critical roles. The reality is that each vehicle meets a specific government function, often viewed as indispensable by the agency that operates it. Of course, controversies and ethical dilemmas abound. Are we spending too much on defense at the expense of social programs? Is maintaining a gargantuan mail fleet hindering the USPS from modernizing into a digital age? Should local police forces have access to armored vehicles that resemble tanks, or is that an overstep? The answers vary depending on one's political perspective, but they all revolve around the same tension, balancing security, efficiency, and the public good while staying within budget. And how do these costs trickle down to you, the average citizen? Federally funded programs rely on income taxes, corporate taxes, tariffs, and sometimes deficit spending. State-funded initiatives may come from sales taxes, property taxes, or specialized funds like gas taxes for road maintenance. Local projects, such as buying a new fleet of garbage trucks, often show up on your utility bills or in local tax levies. Even the privately owned or HOA-managed vehicles ultimately transfer costs to homeowners via association fees. Whether directly or indirectly, virtually everyone pays for these vehicles in some form. Next time you see a convoy of Humvees on a flatbed, or notice your local police station rolling out shiny new SUVs, take a moment to remember that none of it happens by accident. There is a long paper trail, a marathon of debates, and likely years of strategic planning behind each vehicle's existence. Whether you view these investments as prudent or question their necessity, understanding the intricate process helps shed light on where those dollar signs come from and where they go. So, who's really behind the wheel? One part is the generals and admirals who demand ruggedness and lethality for the battlefield. Another part is the postal leadership struggling to maintain nationwide mail delivery under financial constraints. Police chiefs juggle crime statistics, community expectations, and municipal budgets. Sanitation departments wrestle with environmental regulations and the hustle to keep trash off the streets. In each case, decision makers must weigh cost, capability, and longevity, often with conflicting interests and limited resources. Yet, despite the complexities, the show must go on. Packages need delivering, roads need clearing, neighborhoods need policing, and armies must be equipped. Ultimately, the tapestry of government vehicles is as vast and nuanced as the country they serve. It's a patchwork of local, state, and federal agencies, each with unique missions, budgets, and bureaucratic quirks. It's a reflection of our collective priorities, whether that means investing heavily in national defense, championing environmentally friendly mail trucks, or simply ensuring the trash gets picked up every Thursday morning. And let's not forget, these machines don't just exist in a vacuum, they are operated by real people. Postal workers who bake in unair-conditioned trucks, soldiers who trust their armored carriers to keep them alive, and city employees who get up at dawn to make sure the streets are clean. So, the next time a siren blares behind you or a rumbling garbage truck blocks your driveway, maybe it's worth pausing to think about how it all came to be. Every rivet, every budget line, every policy directive, each is part of an enormous puzzle that, in its own strange way, keeps the country running. From tanks to trash trucks, presidential limos to plodding mail carriers, the government's vehicles tell a story of innovation, politics, and yes, plenty of controversy. And when you add up the costs, it all leads to the real question: do we, the public, believe this is money well spent, or is there a better way? One thing's for sure, the wheels of government will keep turning, whether we're ready or not.